A lot of you out there are pretty much never going to be setting foot in a group at all. So we're going to talk about what classes are going to give you the most efficiency or survivability or overall just general proficiency in soloing every piece of content in terms of PvE in Diablo Immortal. For those of you that don't want to talk with other players, let's jump into it. So we went ahead and rated each class for their perceived power level in solo play. If you want to check out any of the resources we have on this spreadsheet, it is in the Aftershock United Discord, which will be linked in the description down below. Go ahead and join the Discord if you're looking to push the game super hard. But right here, I'm going to go ahead and explain some of the ratings and why we gave the ratings to each class. Obviously, we're going to start off with the Necro here, who has the highest solo rating. Now, we do rate the solo play decently high because even if you are someone who's an active, avid community member and then you want to play with a lot of other people, there will be a lot of times where you are solo playing the game. And so you're not going to want to put yourself in a position, if you are trying to push as hard as you can, to where you might struggle in solo play, or if you find yourself that you will be playing solo a lot, you may want to pick some of the easier classes, and Necro will fit that bill absolutely. Now, let's just go ahead and zoom out here real quick, and why is the Necro excellent option in terms of playing the game solo? Well, obviously, when we're talking about playing solo, what we're going to want to avoid is, one, we don't want to be stationary. We want to keep moving so we can avoid damage. Two, are we able to combo with ourselves, or do we need to combo? Meaning, do we prefer setup from other players to get maximum use out of our skills? If yes, then we're going to be weaker for solo play. Three, are we going to have the survivability to actually survive some hits, whether it's going to be the boss stages or just the random monsters? And then four, are we going to have the damage to actually clear efficiently? And arguably number four is the most important, because you want to be able to clear content efficiently if you're solo play, because not only will you actually survive longer because you're clearing content because of your damage, but also if you're super slow compared to a group, then you're going to be losing value in terms of actually resources per hour or things like that. So what is great about the Necromancer here? Well, command skeletons, absolutely amazing. You're going to increase your own survivability in transferring some of the damage to your skeletons here. On top of that, these things do actually a lot of single target damage, which is the main reason why you're going to be struggling in terms of damage for most classes. The basic is actually an AoE, so you have both bases covered. I think Soulfire is one of the better abilities in the game in terms of clearing out just trash monsters with this splash damage on the basic. Excellent basic here. So between those two is it'll keep yourself alive as well as just doing a bunch of AoE damage. Command Golem is another AoE as a summon here, which will keep you alive a ton, as well as just clearing out the enemies in AoEs. So we're going to have a ton of single target damage, we're going to have a ton of survivability, we're going to have a decent amount of damage, and we're going to have a ton of CC. So Necromancer is a great option because of how survivable due to your summons you are, and you're not going to slack on the damage because of how many summons are going to be dealing single target damage to your boss. And again, if you do not have high single target damage, you're going to lack in speed clearing significantly, which is one of the reasons why some of the other classes are a little bit lower than perhaps they may be perceived. So the next one is Demon Hunter here at a 9. Why do we have the Demon Hunter at a 9? Well, really, you are lacking a ton of survivability and mobility, but in this case, offense is the best defense. Demon Hunter is going to annihilate groups. It's going to annihilate bosses in single target damage, as well as being quite mobile due to its ability to move and shoot. You're going to be able to move and shoot and just pop the multi-shot all the time. It'll be just absolutely massive to clear out all the enemies around you, as well as you can actually leave behind sentries and just completely let them handle the monsters behind you while you push forward and absolutely nuke the boss. So in this case, Demon Hunter is the classic example of offense is the best defense. In terms of your survivability, is going to be no problem because you're going to be nuking through all the PvE content in the game. Now, I do want to quickly mention here, when we're talking about PvE content, we're also talking about Elder Rifts and dungeons, things like that, and not just leveling. So that is important to note. But the next two actually have kind of a mixed or a equal rating here, and that's going to be the Crusader and the Barbarian here. Now, one of the reasons why we have them a little bit lower than the other ones is, for one of the reasons why they're so wanted is because of their massive group buffs. They are solid on their own, absolutely, some of the best classes in the game, but one of their big strengths is that they buff up your whole squad and get tons of value out of that. So when you lose that portion of it, they're not quite as strong as you might think compared to some of the other classes. Particularly with the Barbarian, you're going to have a lot of AoE damage in your Whirlwind. You could still use the Demoralize, although this skill is going to drop off significantly due to the fact that you're not going to be able to buff up your allies. Sprint's still going to be amazing in terms of just running through content. So between your Whirlwind and your moving fast, you're actually going to get through dungeons quickly and cleanly through AoEs and speedrunning. The only problem is the Barbarian here is going to lack a lot of single target damage. This Wrath of the Berserker here is going to be nice for picking up that slack and will kind of pick up your damage on those bosses, but it won't be near Demon Hunter's level or even Necro's level in my honest opinion here. I think that the Barbarian is going to kind of be a step down from both Necro and the Demon Hunter, as well as the Crusader, and I think the Crusader's in a similar spot. Again, their Holy Banner here is going to be much more useless due to the fact that you can't buff up your allies. And the other skill down here, where is it? The Conjuration of Light here, this one right here, which you're going to be using in your group skills to basically put a buff on allies to actually do AoE damage with a legendary item modification. You're not going to be able to use that because, or you could use it, but you're not going to get a lot of value out of it because it's only going to be yourself. That being said, you're going to still have a lot of movement with the Drawn Quarter. You're still going to have a lot of single target damage with the Spinning Shield. So you'll still be able to clear through content decently quick and speed through it with movement speed. So I'm not too worried about that, as well as the Crusader having a ton of survivability in this primary attack, increasing your block chance. Overall, the Crusader is going to be very survivable. The only problem is that you're going to lack a little bit of single target damage with the Crusader, but that can be made up for with some modifications to the Spinning Shield skill down at the bottom there. Next up is going to be the Monk. Now, the Monk is coming in at a 5 here, and the reason for this is, as I mentioned, one of the biggest things to do with solo play is that you're not going to have as much leeway to set up your combo skills, and also the Monk isn't going to do an insane amount of single target damage here. They're going to do a decent amount of, they're going to be doing actually a ton of AoE damage, but their single target damage is not quite as much as some of the other classes, and then because you're going to have to combo your skills together, and overall just have a ton of missed value due to the support skills that they're going to be not running because you're not going to have a group, you're going to do a lot less basically damage and overall just effectiveness as the Monk. They do have the Exploding Palm here, which is absolutely insane for clearing out groups. They're going to have the Mystic Allies, which is going to help with the basically killing off bosses with their single target damage. That will do a ton of damage and a lot of movement abilities. So they do have a lot of things going for them. Only problem is you're going to have to set it up with some combos. For example, the 7-sided strike, as well as the Exploding Palm, all those stuff. We're going to have to combo them together to get a lot of effectiveness. And so they're going to definitely be able to clear content, but it's going to be much worse off than any other class on here, except for the Wizard, which we've put at a 4 here. And the real reason for this is that a lot of the effectiveness, yet again, comes from comboing abilities, specifically with this Meteor here, which you're going to summon a Meteor after a few seconds. And so that's going to be a little bit of a tricky scenario because you're not going to want to sit there and kind of have all the monsters surround you because you're going to get hit and then summon it on top of you. But you're also, if you summon it on somewhere else, it's going to have a delay, and so you may miss it. Even though the skill is insane, having someone set it up for you is going to be much, much better. On top of that, something like the Ice Crystal, where you're going to summon a giant Ice Crystal and have everyone just kind of get hit. That will be nice for bosses, but it's going to be very hard to place in terms of just when you're fighting just random enemies. And then the Arcane Torrent, or where is the other one here? I think there was another channel. Nope, it's the Arcane Torrent. The Arcane Torrent or the Disintegrate, when we're channeling it, we are going to have to sit in place, which is very, very poor in terms of actually being able to survive the massive onslaught of enemies. You really want to avoid channeling skills, and the Wizard honestly has a lot of combos with the channeling skills, which makes it, in my opinion, the worst class for solo play, between the combos, between the fact that you have to sit in place for your abilities. They do have the movement ability and teleport, which does make them solid in terms of mobility, but in order to actually pump out damage, you're going to have to stand still. So those are all the ratings for each of the classes. Now, I will say that although the tier list here has some characters in there, like presumably very low on the list, at a 4 for the wizard and a 5 for the monk, I would not take a whole lot of stock in terms of them being like unplayable at all. This is just in terms of like the overall power of all the classes in isolation of themselves on a list. If you're playing a wizard, you're going to be able to clear solo pretty much without any problem as long as you're a skilled player. You're obviously not going to clear probably as fast or as survivable as the other classes, but you're still going to not have a big problem. You're still going to be effective. The only thing is, there are other classes that are much better at playing solo, and as you can see here when we talk about, you know, the synergy between other classes, things like that, all the classes come up to a solid level here, and I don't think any class is particularly unplayable in solo play at all. Any class here can be played to great effect as long as you're skilled at playing that class. So that being said, let me know what you think, and if you're going to be playing solo, if this changes your mind. That being said, hope you enjoyed, and I'll see you for the next one.